Always great to welcome back our good friend Evan, Abrams Action Network HQ, who is, would you say this is the busiest time of your year where everything literally intersects? There's nothing that's not in season right now.
Yeah, you would be scared to see what my tabs look like on my 1, 2, 5 monitors at the moment to my right. It's the most fun time of year, but it's also the most busy. So it's, the thing that's nice is that it's like a school teacher. It happens the same time every year. You know what's coming, so you can at least expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do not envy the amount of work you've had to do this week, but now, I do have to check out some of the baseball stuff because the World Series does start tonight. And as a Red Sox fan, I think I'm obligated to pull against whoever plays the Yankees. But with Dave Roberts and Mookie Betts over there, I think it's pretty easy for me to cheer for the Dodgers.
Yeah, this is an easy one for you. I don't think there's really any call there. And to be fair, other than the Liberty, New York hasn't won a title since 2011, so we could use it.
Yeah, good deal. All right, tonight is one of the best games of the week and a game that will affect the playoff. You would not have said that about Boise State and UNLV until this year, but it absolutely will. The winner of this game is going to be in a great spot to be in the playoff come year's end. Although they're going to have to contend with a military school as well. So that's going to be tough.
What a great season.
I know. Unbelievable. But Boise State and UNLV tonight, no one has cracked the code on how to stop Ashton Jeanty yet. What are the numbers saying about this game? If there's anyone equipped to do it, it might be UNLV, but Oregon didn't do it. So what are we looking at here in Boise State and UNLV?
Yeah, so if you just looked at the matchup, like you said, you'd be like, wow, this is an incredible game. And then 2 layers on top of it would be UNLV probably should have beaten Syracuse earlier in the year and made this matchup even better. That's one. Number 2, Ashton Jeanty is the other fold in this one in terms of being the favorite for the Heisman, the numbers he's putting up, the comparisons to Barry Sanders. It's just all in all, and the fact you got a primetime game at night, it's beautiful. But let's go inside the numbers here for a second. So Boise State went under their full game total for the first time this year last week versus Hawaii. Now, that's only because Hawaii didn't hold up their end of the bargain, really. UNLV will. So that's just my opinion here. Now, the total's gone up. We were at 57.5 on the look ahead. So way before we even set the line here, it was 64.5 down to 63.5. I kind of like the over here. Now, UNLV's gone over in 5 straight home games, which kind of just plays to the number in this one. Now, on the game itself, I personally need to still be convinced of Maddox Madsen. I don't know if he's the right choice for the Broncos quarterback at the moment. He's done a great job protecting the football, but other than that, he just hasn't done what I needed to see. So I think I would taste UNLV in a few ways. Maybe you look live. Maybe you touch the 3.5. And I like the over in this one.
Yeah, I would say so too. What are the numbers on Ashton Jeanty this week?
Listen, minus 1,400, minus 1,500 to score 2 touchdowns. It's just astronomical and through the roof. And most of that stuff hasn't changed week to week just because he's getting so many carries in those situations. To me, I mean, I'm always one to try to look at the other side of it, but I just don't know how I would even begin to not take him to score a touchdown. Even with those odds, so he's right now minus 1,000 anytime touchdown. He's plus 185 to score the first, minus 220 for 2. So, one thing you might want to look at as just if he gets hot early, let's see what first quarter is. Yeah, first quarter is minus 105. So if you think that Boise State's going to even get close to the end zone, right, in one of their first 2 possessions against UNLV and you like them in this game, you're talking about even money for someone who's scoring at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah, like almost now there's more money. Like you're probably just throwing away either way on him, right? Like it's not the best thing to just like he's kind of inevitable.
He is inevitable in that sense. You look at the rushing yards. So he's at 190.5. I don't even really know. I mean, the only benefit you have in betting his over in this game is you're going to assume he's actually going to play the entire game. which hasn't happened at almost any game this year. I mean, he's been pulled in his third quarters right after the second half into the second half. So at least you should know with a spread of 3.5 and a total above 60, he's got to get the rock a ton.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And also think about this. Boise's quarterbacks, the over under there, 213.5. It's a difference of 23 yards between the rushing and the passing. So you know what Boise's going to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. Notre Dame and Navy, would not have thought we were talking about this game earlier in the year, but this is one, even though Notre Dame has scored 41 points, 34 points, they've had some good offensive outputs. Navy's got a reasonably good defense, plus they hold the ball for a long time. Notre Dame is a rushing offense through Riley Leonard. Is this one that we don't expect a lot of points, or is this one that could maybe see a lot of points because we don't expect a lot of points?
This is a fascinating market. So I think that's kind of how we have to start. Look ahead was 41.5 on the total. Now 51. So that's just some expectations. Now, part of that, there's only 2 teams this season undefeated to the over in all their games. Miami, 7-0, and Navy, 6-0. So there's been scoring in Navy games this year is the reason that the total's gone this way. But if you also look at the markets on the spread, so the spread right now is 13.5. You've got almost 65% of the money and the tickets. So big money bets and public bets coming in on Navy in this one, which is a little unexpected considering how public Notre Dame usually is, but you usually don't get Navy this good. A few numbers just on the series. So Notre Dame obviously has dominated historically. They're 11-1 straight up in their last 12 meetings. Since 1990, the Irish have closed as a double-digit favorite versus Navy at a neutral site 7 times. 7-0 against the spread. But I guess 7-0 straight up. The more interesting part is only 4-3 against the number. And you're dealing with a reasonably high number here in terms of 2 touchdowns. The way I think I'm going to want to play this, the explosives for Notre Dame are all going to come on the ground. So I kind of like under 13 first half, under 10. Let's see what that number is. Let me look at the board right now. So if I click first half here, it is 7.5. So if I can find that 7 first half, I would be interested in that. And for me, full game, I need under 13 because 13 is a bit key when you get there. So that's probably what I would be looking at.
Okay. That's interesting. And I thought Riley Leonard might have more like passing yards at this point in the year, but given the way that offense kind of runs through him, it's mostly play action stuff and love and all that. Like this game's not gonna light it up in the passing yards. I
don't think so at all. But the other thing is, it gets a Navy defense 103rd in opponent rush EPA, 123rd in defensive line yards. Like they're not going to be able to stop Notre Dame if they do what they're supposed to do. So that's why I feel like at some point they'll break out. So that's the bet.
Yeah. BYU travels to UCF this week. BYU undefeated. They have found a way each and every single week. Oklahoma State comes here to Waco this week to play Baylor in a free fall. They played their best game of the entire season last week and still lost. BYU finds a way. It doesn't make sense on the surface, but UCF is now at home, desperate to get a win themselves because they are also in a free fall. So this one to me is very interesting because BYU is kind of tough to peg on what they're going to do any given week.
Yeah. And they also a bit of a luck box. I mean, that Oklahoma State game was as wild as one could get. But let's just look at BYU. So I did a little research on this, and I think this is fascinating. So BYU had a win total of 4.5 entering this year. 4.5. They're 7-0 right now to start the season. Indiana and Army, also both undefeated, 7-0 straight up this season as well. Both had win totals of just 5.5. So going back to 2010, we've never seen this many teams with such low win totals have this much success. And this is part of BYU's story. And the interesting part about it is they're listed as underdogs in this game. And they're getting almost 80% of the tickets right now. So the public is loving the idea of the undefeated team getting points. To me, I think it's a bit of a luck box, is the word I said before. I'm just not buying into exactly what I'm seeing here. It's just a lot of turnover luck. They've gone 3-0 in one possession games. Probably should have lost that game against the Cowboys. I just don't see it. Since 2005, Central Florida 9-3 against the number at home against ranked competition, 7-0 with a single-digit spread. I think UCF isn't as good as they should be. BYU's better than they should be. And so the line, I think, is telling a little bit of a story here, which is why it's so fascinating. How about this nugget? Of every game on Saturday of this slate, that is the game with the most tickets right now. So it's getting the most action of any game. People are really interested in this one, and 79% of the tickets on BYU is the dog, but only 58% of the money. So you're seeing a little bit of that bigger bets come in on UCF. It's the direction I'll head.
Bama and Mizzou, the disappointment bowl. Mizzou, I mean, I know they only have the one loss, but they just don't look that good. I mean, they just,
at all.
They're not passing the smell test. Like they've been fortunate in they got Vanderbilt on the right day, and that was a very close game. They struggled to beat Auburn. A&M absolutely housed them. So, and this is their first game against another team that talent-wise is kind of in their ballpark. And Alabama, who obviously has huge problems on defense, and it's affecting everything about them. What are the numbers saying on this one?
The disappointment bowl. This is, like you said, all I'm seeing on the board, and I'm looking to my right here just to see the sheet that has live action. And literally, as you're speaking, Missouri, Alabama is lighting up on the board. It actually moved from 18.5 down to 17.5. It's been pinging all morning. I think the news on Brady Cook, which I haven't seen anything official yet, is probably, and he's listed as doubtful. So you're going to assume that he's not going to go. Drew Pine getting the start there instead. Mm-hmm. To me, Pine came into the game against Auburn this past weekend, ended up going 10 of 22 for 78 yards. In Pine's lone season as a starter for Notre Dame, he wasn't that bad, but he averaged just 8 yards per attempt. I'm not inclined to go that direction. I think it's a little difficult to try to pinpoint which of these teams is going to show up when there's just so many questions. I'll give you a real interesting nugget, though. So Alabama's lost 3 straight games against the spread entering this matchup. They haven't lost 4 straight games, even crossing seasons against the spread since Nick Saban's rookie year in 2007. So when you talk about expectations and what Alabama's currently going through under DeBoer, it's the pressure has to be unimaginable. And you look at the line because of Cook. Look ahead 13.5. Now, like I said, up to 18.5 earlier, down to 17.5. I don't think people really know what to do here. So in my honest opinion, I would be looking at Alabama, but I just can't go over 17. It just doesn't make sense to me in a team that I think should be better. I think should win by 20 plus, especially without Cook. But the betting man inside me and the numbers guy needs under 17 in this one.
Yeah, they're just not trustworthy, right?
Yeah,
they're just you can't trust them to do what you think they're going to do any given week.
And honestly, this is such must win for both teams. Mm-hmm. Alabama, third loss is killer, and Missouri, this is their toughest game yet. If they somehow find a way to win this game and completely drown the tide, the college football playoff, the SEC title, they're all in play. So just a wild one. And the fact that all those things are in play and the line is 17 makes me want to believe the line and believe the talent. But you just haven't seen it from the Tide this year.
Yeah, absolutely not. Illinois and Oregon. Illinois is a team you just don't want to play week to week because they're gonna mess you up a little bit, even if you do beat them. Now they haven't lost that much, but they're very physical. Altmaier seems to play the best when the game's on the line, but Oregon looks like they've completely come into their own. But even still, like this one feels to me like it could be a scrap.
It could. The issue with me looking at the matchup is you have a common opponent. And it's one of the first things I look at when I look at a matchup. And with this one, you've got Purdue. Oregon just beat them 35-0, while Illinois needed overtime and the miracle of all miracles. So when trying to even compare both matchups, it's interesting to me. I'm looking at the market right now. 72% of the tickets, 78% of the money. And you're going to say, Evan, which direction? Illinois. Everybody is interested in taking the points and assuming what you're going to assume, that it's going to be a close matchup. For me, Oregon or nothing is probably the play because I just don't trust Illinois. And Dan Lanning just done an incredible job in certain circumstances. Double-digit favorite. He's 22-1 straight up. you're like, okay, great, you're supposed to win the game. But he is 15-8 against the number there in those games. And he's covering by over 4 points per game. So showing up and scoring points in those. And they were so disappointing earlier in the season. I just kind of feel like every week I'm getting a little bit of a nudge that, maybe they would have been rated some way if it didn't start the way it did. So, and one more, just I'll throw at you here. Under Lanning, they played 2 games as a 14-plus point favorite off extended rest. They've won 79-19 in both matchups. So I just feel like it's Oregon or nothing here.
Yeah. He is. I think he's about to be America's coach. I think he has that vibe about him where, I mean, he's got a little bit of the Saban in him, but he's also like maybe like a bit more of a risk taker. And I don't know. He's the first coach that's been loyal to Oregon. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
He's got a little Dan Campbell in him.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, he's got it's a nice mix of what he's got there. All right. A&M and LSU, best game of the week in College Station. Garrett, our producer, is going. He's excited, but as an LSU fan, he's nervous.
A little nervous.
But in this series, when they're both ranked, LSU is 8-0.
Great nugget.
Yeah, so 8-0. Does A&M finally break that little streak?
So this one's a toughie, and I only say it because of this. So the line was 3.5, then it to 2.5. Now I'm seeing Texas A&M -1. So
oh, wow.
it is really pulled down towards LSU's direction. Now our projection for this one is pick'em. So at 2.5, and especially at 3, I was coming on the air here to tell you to take LSU. Mm-hmm. At the current moment, I would wait for A&M to hopefully show life early and then jump on LSU. That's really the only way I see to play this game because I just don't see it in the number. Listen, to beat LSU, the opponent's got to be able to throw the ball at an efficient rate. I'm just not sure Texas A&M can do that. I mean, Wegman against Mississippi State, 15 of 25, 217, but he had 4 turnover-worthy plays. That's just not going to get it done against LSU. And I was going to talk about Brian Kelly as a road dog. At +1, it absolutely means nothing. If you want to look at the circumstances of they opened 3.5, it was 2.5 most of the week. We can play along if you want. He's 23-11 ATS as a road dog. It just proves in games that are super tight when he's on the road, he ends up making it close and does his job. So I would be on LSU here, but the number is just moving away from me.
Yeah. I
literally just picked A&M straight up, and it breaks my heart.
Oh, no.
See, but that's also being a fan, and you try to neg them, right? You neg them. So they like, oh, nobody thinks we'll do it. Yeah, that's how you do it. All right, you mentioned to me the Oklahoma Ole Miss. Early in the season, you would have thought, like, this game's going to get a good number. This is going to be great. Oklahoma offensively is absolutely abysmal. Ole Miss has one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses in the country, although I do think the defense numbers are skewed by that early season schedule a little bit.
Yeah, it is.
But still, one of the better defenses and one of the best offenses. This is not a good matchup for Oklahoma at all.
Yeah, this is as bad as it gets, especially against a Kiffin team that probably wants to feast because they really haven't had that ability. And I see no better opponent to feast against than this. 2 numbers that really just show the line in this one. So it's 20.5 right now. But before all the action of the season, it was supposed to be 6. So it's gone up 14.5 points based off of just play on the field. And then you say to yourself, which is what I did about a week ago when I was looking this up, I was like, Oklahoma 20.5. That prop 20 hasn't happened in a while. It's the truth. So they haven't closed as a 20-plus point underdog since November 22nd, 1997 against Texas Tech. 24-point dog in that game. That would be 348 games ago for the Sooners. So this is absolutely uncharted territory for a program that is just headed in the wrong direction. And one more I'll give for you, which kind of just tells you why the number's this big. Under Venables. Been terrible when they're projected to be blown out. As a single-digit favorite or a dog, 4-12 straight up, 5-11 against the number. So even this big, I'm not sure I could even tell you to take the Sooners. if you had any momentum to want to take them, I would just tell you to take the team total, because they're going to have to put points up on the board in this one. And even if they get blown out, maybe you get lucky.
Yeah. Best of luck, Jackson Arnold. You're going to need it, buddy. You're absolutely going to need it. Evan, thank you so much. Enjoy New York.
Thank you.
Especially, look, as much as I despise the Yankees and everything they stand for, World Series time in New York's a great time to be there.
Great time, but also we're title town. The Liberty just won. We just had we're going to have a parade. We're going to maybe 2 parades. 2 parades? No, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope not, but if you do, good for you.
Here's to you, Boston. Enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Evan Abrams, Action Network. We love having Abram on. Evan, anytime we can. Next up, let's go Kenneth Davis, right? I mean, this is the most fun we have every week. Kenneth Davis, Big Ten Country. This is 365 Sports.